going to go through the quiz on Desmos and on the calculator. That way you have them both, depending on how you did it. I'm going to do Desmos first and show you all the different ways you could have used that. You can follow along with me. If some of your stuff is right and don't want to put the data back in, that's also fine. Alright, so in Desmos, you would need to put all of your data points in first. Add your table, put your data points in, make sure none of them are missing, make sure they're all correct. And then type in your y1 tilde or the squiggly line mx1 plus b. And that would tell you your line of best fit, your slope, and your y-intercept. And you could have wrote one or two things. It says round to one decimal place, so many of you wrote point or y equals 0.6x plus 9.8, which is fine. Some of you wrote 2 decimal places because that's what we've been doing in class, which was also fine. If you did more than that, that wasn't necessary, but I don't think I took off of that. But if you were missing y or x, I did take off of that because you were missing part of the equation. Questions on that part? And then I'm going to use the table method and the x equals or y equals method and show you both. So for this first one, let me make the table first. If you're making the table, you need all of your decimal points in here. So you would write out y equals, put all of your decimals, 0.64, 3676, x plus 9.83. 277. And then go up to your gear wheel, make that a table, and you can start putting in x values. So the first question asks how the weight of a 10-month-old. So you would put in 10 for your x. And it would give you your y values, 16.26. Some of you rounded that to 0.27, or just rounded it to 0.3. Any of those were fine. We'll talk about wrong answers here in a second. And then you needed your labels. We were looking for weight, so pounds. So some of you got the right answer, but didn't put your labels. Some of you put the labels, but got the wrong answer, or your decimals were a little off. So we're going to talk about all of those here in a second. And then I'll show the other method after I go through these. For this one, you needed to tell me how many months was a 5-year-old. So multiply 5 times 12. That should have given you 60. So if you're using the table, you would be putting in 60. And seeing what that y value is, 48.45, 48.5, either of those was fine. And then pounds. And then if you're still using the table for this last one, now we're looking for how old the girl will be in months when she weighs more than 45 pounds. So on Desmos, you kind of have to play a guessing game. We know it's at 48 at 60 months. So let's say 50. Okay, close. 54, close, 55. Put it right over. Some of you got the exact, and we'll talk about how else you would get that here in a second. So 55 months was the correct answer. If you had decimals, as long as they would have rounded up to 55, that was fine. Right, so all of those would have been using the Desmos table, how you show your work. Before we do the other ones, what questions do we have? If you use this method instead, so I'm going to not use this table really fast. And we found our line of best fits, and we wanted to use x equals or y equals. In this first equation, since we're looking for y, this will be our x, so we can say x equals 10. And just type that in. And find where those two lines intersect. And that would tell you the answer of 16.27 or round to 0.3, either or. For the next one, you would still have to find that 5 times 12 gives you 60, so then you could change that to 60. And find where those two lines intersect, which again would be 48.45 or 0.5. For the last one, it's asking for how old in months she'll be. So you're looking for x, you have y, so you can put in y equals 45. And find where those intersect. 54.63, 54.64, or just 55. Any of those I accepted as answers. Okay. So what some of you were doing was taking the equation you wrote and then putting 10 or 60 or 45 into x or y and trying to solve. The issue with that is it's not accurate because you're not using all your decimals. So if you're going to do that, you have to use all of the decimals from the original, or do one of those two methods I just said, or the methods I'm going to say on the calculator. Right? So that method is fine if you use all the decimals. If you don't, your answer is not going to be right or as accurate. Right? Questions on anything decimals related? So now I'm going to switch gears and do it on the calculator just in case you were using that. So just like Desmos, you'd have to go into stat, put it in. Go into stat, scroll over to calculate, go down to linear regression, number 4. Go down to store regression and alpha trace. And then calculate it. You should get the same equation as we did on Desmos. And again, the rounding was fine. I do want to mention a couple things about this because I feel like we're getting confused about these directions. I'm going to show you in using these methods and using the table. So if we're using the first method, so this is one method, this is a second, and then the table is a third. If we're using the store method, this works for all of your x values trying to find y. So the first one was 10. So if I type in 10 and then STO and then x and enter. So that's that first part. Then the arrow going back to alpha trace. Hit alpha trace and then enter twice. And that would give you your answer. Notice it's the same, 16.26 or 27 or 0.3 if you run all the way up. I can do the same thing for the second one. Type in 60, store it for x, and hit enter. And then do alpha trace again, and enter twice. It'll give me that same answer. Both of these methods are only for when you have x and need to find y. The table method can be used for both. So I'll do this one first. So in your graph, if you graph it and you can see it, this method will work. If you cannot see it, this method will not work unless you zoom out, play with the window. You have to play with it. All right, so if we try the first one, second trace, and then we're going into value. The first question asks about when x is 10, and it would give you that answer. Second one, you could do the same thing, or try to do the same thing, I should say. Second trace, go into value, but when you type in 60, it won't work because 60 is not in that window. You'd have to change the window or change your settings. So then what you could do instead is go into your table, second graph. This table, let's start back on. This table is from your line of best fit, your data, the table it made, not the table you put in. So then you can scroll down and find when x is 10, what your y value would be. You could scroll all the way down to 60, but that would take some time. You could also just change it. Second window, change that to 60, and go back to the table to see what that value will be. And then use this same thing to go back and find your x. So we know our y value has to be greater than 45, and at 55 is when that happens. I know I kind of just went through that fast. Do you have any calculator questions? Sophia. Second graph will take you to the table. You may not be at 50, whatever, it may be at 1, it depends. But if you want to change where this number starts, you can go into second window and change this number. Any other calculator questions? We are not going to do binder check today. We'll do that on Friday. I'm going to explain the activity to you, and then if you want to start before lunch, you can. If you want to wait, actually, probably don't wait, but we'll see. I need 3 volunteers. So. Victoria, Alyssa, Lily, come over. I need one of you to fold this at the ends like this. Okay. I need one of you to put pennies in, and then the other one to count. Okay. No, not yet. Fold this. All right. So face the class so everyone can see you. All right. So before you start. So you guys' activity, summative activity, is you guys are trying to see how many pennies it takes to break spaghetti noodles. They're actually angel hair noodles, so break a little easier. So I have to count and see how many people you have to figure out groups. But if you have 3 people, one person's going to be holding, one person's going to be dropping pennies, the other one can be the recorder or counter. You guys can rotate. If you only have 2 people, then you'll have to do a little bit more. All right, so we're going to start counting to see how long it takes to break this penny. And then Alyssa, you go ahead and count. And you can count out loud too. Yeah. 4. That's going to happen like 50 times. Okay. So you can do the standing, you can do it at your desk, but the bag cannot touch the desk. So you have to hold your hands up a little higher. You guys can, I'll take that and you can head up to your seat. Thank you. Go that way. Oh, thank you. Everyone's going to get a prediction sheet. Sure. Make sure you read the instructions first. I'm going to highlight some things on it. 1, you'll need to decide on how many spaghetti noodles you want. Either start with 1 and keep adding 1, or start with 2 and keep adding 1. Also, you'll need to make a prediction. So I would say pick 5 numbers. So if you're going to start with 1 and keep adding 1, you could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're going to start with 2 and keep adding 1, you do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I feel like I miscounted that. Make us like small little table off to the side, and you predict how many pennies it's going to take to do that before you come to get supplies. You need at least 5 data sets, so do it up to 5 times. You could do it more than that, but you may not have time to do more than that. So keep that in mind. Before I let you guys pick groups, do we have questions? Okay. So I think we have 22. So that would be 6 groups of 3 and 2 groups of 2. So if you want to choose your own groups, you can do that. If there are people left over, then I will choose your groups for you. So get into 6 groups of 3 and 2 groups of